listen to whatever they have to say, and we have to answer their questions. Is it because they're speaking the truth? Is it because atheism actually carries intellectual currency? No, it's simply because the white man has been able to take over the Americas and had the Industrial Revolution. It's another big thing, by the way.
First of all, let me explain what I felt when I saw that video. I felt something like this. And you being something like this. Yes, this video will be a massacre. I will intellectually eat you alive.
From the 60s in Britain onwards, they've been able to seize these opportunities where other nations have not been able to do it. Yeah, and therefore they've concentrated their economic and military power, which is expanded into, also media power in the new age. So we've had to listen.
First of all, how successful is a society is very much based on the ideology it's built upon. Those things are not separated. No matter how much you want to pretend Islam doesn't play a huge role in Muslim societies being weak, I'm here to say that Islam is the decisive reason for the failures in the Muslim world. I will even go as far as saying Islam is the single reason Muslim societies are failing. Even factors that you confuse being external, like wars and poverty, are also a result of the effect Islam has to Muslim societies. In the personal level, you believe the negative attitudes against Muslims in Britain are due to bigotry and shortcomings of the British society. Again, Islam is a single reason for that. I'm not claiming that British society is perfect, but perfection was never an issue when it comes to those matters. Let me explain. The right perspective we must assume when we judge human societies, it's not how they are doing in relation to perfection, rather if the attitudes are beyond the human failures we are expecting from a society in the 21st century. The failures of British society are well within the boundaries of the expected. The abnormal factor here is the failures of Islam. For example, if a Muslim terrorist blows himself in a children's concert in Manchester, to expect zero backlash is assuming British society is populated by Jesus figures. Certainly you will have a backlash, but is that backlash beyond the boundaries of the expected? Certainly not. Now, let's take the behaviors in Islam. Are those behaviors beyond the boundaries of the expected for the 21st century? Certainly yes. Now let's take geopolitics. USA attacking Afghanistan. Was that within the boundaries of the expected after 9/11? Certainly yes. Was 9/11 in the boundaries of the expected? Certainly no. 9/11 was based on a medieval death cult supremacy narrative that should not exist in the 21st century. That's the abnormal. The abnormal is not wars in humanity. Wars will never end. The abnormal is not countries caring about geopolitics and economy. That's just human nature. The abnormal here is certain people thinking they are in an apocalyptic Star Wars. In a medieval apocalyptic Star Wars. There is no Western civilization and Muslim civilization. There is only the human civilization against a backward medieval cult. The reason there is only one civilization is very simple, because there are objective truths. Now we have many cultures and many civilizations in a sense that we have the Greek civilization, the Muslim civilization, the British, okay, but humanity will not accept everything from every civilization. We'll only accept the true stuff of every civilization. Muslims have some true stuff, Greeks have some true stuff, British have some true stuff, okay? And that is not preference, that is happening automatically with social evolution. The problem here is that your cult is totalitarian and it demands total submission to everything it says. That's why it cannot fit in the modern world. So you have two wrong narratives in your speech. First of all, you create a wrong dichotomy. You assume it's either all Islam or all Western civilization. You are forced to think like that because your cult is totalitarian. That's not our problem. That's the problem of the people who invented your cult, that added this totalitarian evil concept, and you now cannot compromise. Then the other wrong assumption you are making is that truth is preference. And even if your ideology demands untrue stuff, that's just a preference, and you will flourish no matter what. Like nature owes you to flourish, whatever you do. I believe it hard enough, therefore nature will rearrange itself in order for me to flourish with the bullshit I believe. No matter what. And when you inevitably fail due to simply rules of nature, again because your cult is totalitarian and supremacist, you don't learn from your mistakes. It's always someone else, the West, Bush, I don't know, Jews. That's the problem here. And you need to change that, because humanity will not bend, you will bend. That is inevitable. That is not a matter of outcome. That is just a matter of time and suffering. Societies are constructed by physical beings operating in a physical environment. In that sense, there are rules that apply, like rules of nature. Certain behaviors will create failed societies just because of nature. The same way gravity works. There are objective truths about how we build a successful society that are beyond ideologies and preferences. If ideologies align with those objective truths, that will determine if those societies will fail or flourish.
We've had to listen. It's really interesting because, you know, I'm not going to lie to you, there's some really interesting things, yeah? For example, the idea of homosexuality. Before we talk about one God and something, we'll talk about homosexuality. We'll go straight into the deep end, right? Okay, so with homosexuality, it's really interesting how I was hearing a discussion one time. It's an anecdotal experience. And it was a white person complaining about the attitudes of a black Christian. They were complaining about the attitudes of a black Christian. And the black Christian was not necessarily in line, they didn't believe in same-sex marriage, for instance, yeah? And the white person was saying, well, why don't they believe in this, and this is homophobia and all these things.
What the hell are you talking about? Black, white, brown. Truth is objective.
The reason why the black person doesn't believe in same-sex marriage is simply because your great-granddad colonized, enslaved his great-granddad, taught him the religion of his day, which was Christianity. He hasn't left it, you have, okay, and therefore he has a different opinion to you on this matter.
First of all, thank you very much for your very high opinion about whites. Yes, we are gods, and black people are like children. They don't have agency. And frankly, don't make it a racist matter, this gay thing, okay? It's a cultural matter. Islam hates gays, not black people. Don't insult the black people. So, gays, not a problem at all in society. Islam, kind of a problem. And nobody gives a fuck what you think with basic needs of other people. Just imagine, I thought that Muslims not get married because they pollute the society. Can I force my opinion to you? And now let's return to what I was saying earlier. You will have to accept that gays are completely equal with every other person. You will accept that because that's the truth, not because West is saying so. Here, Islam is simply wrong. In an objective human societies, gays are equal. This will happen, inevitably, with social evolution. Okay? The only matter here is that if you accept that with intelligence, you won't suffer. If you try to resist that, social evolution will crush you. What you are not getting is the power of social evolution. The power of social evolution is like the power of nature. Okay? Let me demonstrate the power of social evolution. Take the mountain Everest, okay, and throw it from a plane. What's the chance the Mount Everest will not fall from the plane? That's the power of social evolution. And you are standing there and trying to hold the Mount Everest. It won't happen. You will be crushed. This is the power of social evolution.
So it was quite ironic that the white man, and this is becoming, it's not to say genetics, when I say the white man, beware that I'm talking about the archetypal post-colonial white man. I'm not talking about the color of the skin. I'm talking about the idea, post-colonial white man. The white man wants us to just change in his image. That's why atheism was on the increase, and that is why we've had to answer questions about atheism.
That's outrageous. What you are saying now is the complete opposite of truth. Atheism is in the increase because of the free market of ideas, because of the internet, where the traditional weapons of religions fail, like intimidation, indoctrination, and ignorance. Atheism is flourishing in the face of negative social pressures. I mean, the only thing I need to do to demonstrate how stupid is what you are saying now is just say loud what you are saying. Atheism is flourishing due to indoctrination. Rather, if we let societies free, we get religion. Okay, it's good to be confident, but as I said, keep your confidence down 100 notches. You might pass the line of being confident to being crazy.
Okay? If we lived 100 years ago, I would not even begin talking about atheism, because it would be an insignificant world reality. Yeah?
Yes, because 100 years ago we didn't have the internet. It's almost like what I said before was true.
That is just the environmental reality. Yeah? If the Maratha Empire or the Sikh Empire of the Indians somehow became superpowers, we might be here talking about Sikhism or polytheism in the first instance. But that's not what's happened. So what is atheism? Atheism is a lack of belief in God. Yeah? Or a creator, a sustainer. The atheist wants us to answer the question of how can you prove God exists, that a creator exists. And frankly, you guys know the arguments, okay? I don't want to bore you with the arguments.
Yes, arguments are so boring, especially when you are winning all debates so easily. You remember one guy named Christopher Hitchens? The poor guy, you defeated him in every debate. The time for debate is over, you already won. Islam is now proven without a shadow of a doubt. In fact, the God Delusion book is not referring to you now perfectly. You are not deluded at all. Your confidence is entirely justified. I mean, in the age of ISIS, Islam is so obviously true that it's not even debatable.
The arguments are the arguments. The arguments are the arguments. You have cosmological arguments and contingency arguments and fine-tuning arguments and arguments from consciousness.
Boring, boring. Don't bore us with the arguments, please. It's done, you already won. Don't need to beat a dead horse.
Iterated and reiterated. That we've said, we've argued with them. Yeah? And these arguments are not just Muslim arguments. Clearly they're not. Leibniz, Newton, very many philosophers believed in these things. And they would argue for the things that we're arguing for today. They actually, I would argue that most Enlightenment philosophers pre-New World were probably monotheists or theists, probably. Yeah, in the Renaissance period, look at Descartes. He is the archetypal rationalist. Yeah, obviously his book, The Meditations, is testimony of that. He was a firm believer in God. Okay, so the new atheist or the atheist or whatever you want to call them, I believe the following. Yeah, I believe that atheism grew out of two or three things. One is the weakness of the Christian tradition to deal with medicine and science, generally speaking, and this can be found. If you look, for example, this is a really interesting thing. If you go on Google Ngram is like Google Trends, but it's a little bit different. Google Ngram is a really interesting data tool whereby you can put like names, labels, yeah? Put Christianity in Google Ngram. What it does is it tries to track how many books have been read on that particular topic. Yeah, if you look at Christianity, there's a steep decline. Yeah, it goes down. If you look at the word science, for example, there's an incremental, or you can even say an exponential increase. And that shows something. That obviously, correlation doesn't always mean causation, but we can tell through the timeline that Christianity was not able to deal with certain things, and people moved away from Christianity and kind of lost faith because of its inability to deal with scientific phenomena and medicine and these things.
That's absolutely true. As science progresses, religion is moving back because the gaps of our understanding are closing. So you notice something in reality. Now let us see how you will explain that phenomenon.
That was one of the reasons. Another thing is the increase in philosophy, the Enlightenment period. Yeah, and rationalism. The idea of the Trinity was not appealing to the majority of people.
Haha, the Trinity. Really? You took the one thing which is not included in your religion and you made that the factor. Seriously? You are naive like a child. Yes, Christians, with new advancements in technology and science, could not cope with the Trinity. The virgin birth, all that is okay because it's also in your mythology. The Trinity is the problem. Flying horses is okay. The Trinity passed the line. It was one step too much.
It's surprising, yeah, that if you go to the majority of people now, although in the census it might be the case, 2011 census, that in London it's meant to be like a Christian majority by a very thin majority. But if you ask a so-called Christian, do they believe that Jesus is actually God? They would not believe that. I believe they wouldn't believe that. They wouldn't really go to church.
And you just stumble upon the real reason for your argument. Nobody really believes literally nonsense, except Muslim. And why is that? Because Christianity hasn't got good arguments? No, because Islam has kept your brain in the 7th century with social pressures, with death for apostasy, criticizing Mohammed, his death. Okay, with this kind of pressures, it kept your mind in the 7th century. Okay, nobody really believes in hell and heaven, obviously, in the 21st century. Only Muslim. But that's not a testament of you having better arguments. That's a testament of your mind being frozen. A regular Muslim is like a monk of Christianity. Your brain has not evolved. Christians have a tradition of free thinking. That's why they are living Christianity more easily than Muslim living Islam. It's not like you have better arguments. I mean, have you seen any David Wood videos? As easy as atheists defeat David Wood and Christians, that's how easy Christians defeat you in arguments.
So Christianity now is dying because, frankly, it doesn't have that right. You can't rationalize it. It's become non-rationalizable, and people have realized that, and it's gone against scientific and industrial. For them, it's perceived to have gone against scientific and industrial development. So Christianity is on a decline, and atheism has basically grew because for the layman.
Okay, yes.
In the West, if Christianity is not true, then there is no religion that's true. That's how they've generalized it. Why look at the religion of the heathens and the pagans and the people of the Orient? Why do that when actually we had the only religion which could possibly be true, which is Christianity, and that's clearly not true, doesn't help us. So why look at these other religions? So for that reason, I think atheism is a natural response to it. It's not that the idea of no God, no creator, no cause, no sustainer, no maintainer actually carries any intellectual weight.
It's one thing to believe in Islam, okay? But to think that Islam is so obviously dominating atheism in the intellectual level that it's not even a challenge, it's insanity, okay? You have spent too many hours in the speaker's corner. You are not connected with reality. You are deluded. You know how many top scientists are now Muslim? 0. You know how many are atheists? 85%. And they make conference trying to explain why it's only, 85% and it's not 100%. And they try to figure out that phenomenon.
Let me back up for a moment. You know, we've all seen the data. 40%, there's 90 whatever percent of the West or the American public believes in a personal God that responds to their prayers. And then you ask, what is that percentage for scientists? Averaged over disciplines, it's about 40%. And then you say, how about the elite scientists, members of the National Academy of Sciences? An article on those data recently in Nature, it said 85% of the National Academy reject a personal God. and then they compare it to 90% of the public. You know, that's not the story there. They missed the story. What that article should have said is, how come this number isn't 0? That's the story. Okay? So my esteemed colleague here,
And here you are saying that atheism is not even a challenge to Islam. You are simply deluded, my friend.
Another thing is the problem of evil. Look at all these things that have happened, wars that have happened. The majority of heavy wars that have happened in the world have been in Europe. Trust me, if we're talking about things, if we're talking about wars which have led to people being killed, okay, the majority of those wars have been wars in Europe, yeah? In terms of casualties, World War II is probably the most in world's history. So for that reason, people think, why is this happening? How could God allow this? Problem of evil is the most emotional, non-intellectual argument, but very powerful because we are very emotional creatures.
No, actually it is an intellectual argument, and I have made a video completely proving that this argument is a conclusive disproof of God, intellectually, without a shadow of a doubt, conclusively. I've proven that. And I will have the link of this video. And you can always challenge me and see how far you go.
Yeah, and so for that reason, people have separated themselves away. On a very fundamental level, I would say that why put the onus on us to answer the question, how does God exist, or why does God exist?
Because you are making a positive claim, and moreover, your cult is totalitarian and political, and claim all aspects of life. That's why.
I would say, what evidence is there to suggest that there is no causation to this universe? That's how I would put it. If you don't believe in causation, then we can go to contingency. So we can either say, this universe has no cause, which defies your understanding of causation, or say this universe is not dependent upon anything and it's independent. Either of those things don't carry any intellectual weight and cannot be substantiated with any evidence. Simple.
But you assume that science proved our universe began. Science proved our universe began, not the cosmos. The philosophical nothing never existed. So you made an internally consistent argument based on wrong assumptions. And then you excluded your God from your own argument. To make a long story short, not only is not as straightforward as you present it, you don't have a chance in this argument. I can defeat you in that argument very easily. It's child's play for me.
Simple. And if you do agree that there is a cause and that the universe is dependent, which is both the causation argument or cosmological argument and or the contingency argument, then we just have to simply ask, what is the cause? So when we've realized now that, okay, the human being has been placed by something or someone that has placed a human being into this cosmos, and it's a significant placement, and a purposeful and meaningful placement, then the question is, what is the relationship that should exist between this sentient human being and the creator or this cause or whatever you want to call it? And we would say that the relationship should not differ from the relationship that the cause has with anything else in the creation, which is a relationship of submission.
You are jumping around logic without justification from point A to point B. Just like that. In my videos, I conclusively disproven all those points, many times. See my videos. And please like, subscribe and patron me, at least 30 euros. I mean, have a freaking new argument. I am boring even myself at this point.
In appreciation, understanding of the might of this creator respective to the insignificance of the creation. And there is no other appropriate relationship that this creation can have with the creator but that particular relationship of submission and obedience.
Why? Why? In fact, I disproven that point in my previous video.
And if you attempt anything else, it will not work. It's as simple as that.
Yet I disproven that point in my previous video conclusively. And we see how that works in the Muslim world every day. So, okay. See ya.
Bark at the moon.
miracle will have to wait. Now when he's found what he's looking for, listening all and you hear it. Back at the moon.